I always believed the hardest part of motherhood was the beginning, the sleepless nights, the empty pockets, the fear that you are one wrong breath away from breaking your child. But I was wrong. The hardest part comes later, when the child becomes a man and begins making choices that feel like knives you must swallow quietly. I was 24 when I arrived in America, with a toddler on my hip and a past I didn't dare look back at. The airplane smelled like old plastic and recycled air, and the sky outside was so dark it looked bottomless. I remember pressing my cheek to the cool window as my son slept on me, his breath warm against my arm, and whispering to myself, "If we survive this, I will never complain again." Surviving is all I knew. I had grown up in a place where winters lasted longer than governments, where men solved arguments with fists or bottles, and where women learned to run before they learned to read. My husband Luca's father was charming the way rain is charming before you realize it's a storm. He gambled, made promises he couldn't keep, drank more than he worked, and loved in a way that felt like a rope around my ribs. When he disappeared, owing money to men whose names were whispered like curses, I understood that staying would kill me. So I packed a single suitcase, scooped my son into my arms, and boarded a plane to the only country that didn't need my past, only my willingness to work. America didn't welcome me warmly, but it didn't try to kill me either, and I counted that as kindness. I worked in kitchens for almost a decade, washing dishes until my hands looked older than my face, chopping vegetables until my wrists ached at night, learning English from cooks who spoke in half sentences, and customers who spoke too fast. But with every year, every extra shift, every tip saved in a jar on top of my fridge, a dream began to take shape. A deli, my deli, a place where the food would be honest, and the life inside would be mine. When I finally bought the small corner shop, a narrow space between a laundromat and a flower stand, the landlord told me, "You won't last a year." I lasted 30. The neighborhood learned my name. People came for my soups, my sandwiches, my stubborn hospitality. My deli smelled of onions, thyme, pickles, and a kind of comfort that money can't buy. I filled it with wooden chairs, mismatched mugs, and the sort of warmth you can't fake. And in the middle of it grew my son, Luca. He was sweet, too sweet sometimes. Handsome in a way that made older women laugh, and younger women raise eyebrows. He was gentle, emotional, full of big dreams and small discipline. He tried things the way a child pokes at fire knowing it might burn him, but curious anyway. He was a gamer, glued to screens with the devotion of a monk, and he had inherited something from his father, an itch for risk, a hunger for shortcuts, an addiction to the thrill of maybe I'll win this time. When he turned 25, he moved out, promising he would find himself. I let him go. Mothers must learn the art of loosening fingers even when they want to clench. I thought the storm had passed. I thought I had paid all my debts to fate, but storms come back when you least expect them. It began on a rainy Monday in November. The day smelled of wet pavement and burnt toast. My knees cracked as I descended the stairs of my apartment above the deli. I flipped the sign from closed to open and started the morning routine. Heat the grill, slice tomatoes, brew coffee strong enough to wake the dead. At 9:17 a.m., the door opened. Luca stepped in, pale, nervous, soaked through from the rain, and he held a paper in his shaking hand. "Mom," he said, voice trembling, "we need to talk." I put down the knife. "What happened?" He swallowed hard. I made a mistake." I raised an eyebrow. "A small mistake, or the kind that makes my heart stop?" He winced. "The heart one." He unfolded the paper. A bank statement. Red numbers bled down the page. "Mom, I lost money." "How much?" He rubbed his face. $38,000. Silence filled the deli like smoke. $38,000. I repeated flatly. "It wasn't gambling," he said instantly, too instantly. "It was an investment. This online thing. The guy said it was guaranteed, and stop." He froze. "Do not lie to me. Not now." His eyes dropped to the floor. "It was gambling," he whispered. I inhaled slowly, letting the anger settle into something cold and manageable. "And?" He hesitated. And I borrowed money from some guys. Which guys? He didn't answer. That told me everything. I leaned closer. You borrowed from criminals. He flinched like a scolded child. They gave me a deadline. I didn't know what to do. You come to me. I was scared. Of what? He met my eyes, tears gathering. Of disappointing you. That was the knife, not the debt, not the stupidity, the fear that he had ruined my image of him. I shook my head softly. Luca, loving you is not optional. It is permanent. He swallowed a sob, then wiped his eyes and said something that froze my blood. They said I should give them something as collateral. I gripped the counter. What did you promise them? He whispered so quietly I almost didn't hear it. The deli. My deli. My life. My identity. My decades of sacrifice. Promised to criminals by my own son. He looked at me desperately. Mom, I'll fix it. I swear. I'll make money, real money, if you just sign the deli over to me temporarily. That way they can see I'm serious. I'll get it back later, I promise. I'm not trying to steal from you. I held up my hand. No, he blinked. What? No, I repeated. I will not sign deli over. Not temporarily. Not ever. His face twisted. Mom, I could die if I don't pay them. Better you than deli. Mom, you made mistake. You fix. I will not sacrifice everything I built. He threw his hands up. You don't understand. I leaned forward. No, you don't understand. That deli is the only thing that saved us when we came here. It is the reason you had food, clothes, school. It is my backbone. And you gave it away with one conversation. He crumpled into a chair, head in his hands. Mom, please, please, I need help. You will have help, I said, but not the help you want. He looked up, confused. What does that mean? It means I will fix this. Not with money, with intelligence. He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. And I, staring at him, whispered inside my mind, if anyone comes for my son, I will become the woman I promised myself I would never be again. But he didn't need to know that yet. He needed to survive, and I needed to resurrect an old version of myself, the one who outsmarted dangerous men, crossed borders in the dark, and survived things Luca would never be strong enough to imagine. I stood up. Go home, I said. Lock the door. Turn off your phone. Speak to no one. What are you going to do? I looked at him and told him the truth. Whatever it takes. Luca didn't sleep that night. I know because he called me 3 times just to check if I'm alive, and because when I looked out my apartment window at 3:14 inches the morning, I saw his silhouette pacing on the sidewalk like a stray cat afraid of headlights. I didn't sleep either, not out of fear. Out of calculation. Fear is a luxury I stopped being able to afford long before I crossed the ocean. But calculation? That was a skill I carried like a blade tucked into my shoe. I set my alarm for 5 a.m., not that I needed it, and opened the deli at 6 sharp. The smell of onions, garlic, coffee, and old wood steadied me. This place had seen me through births, deaths, winters, heartbreaks, and triumphs. It had fed hundreds. It had saved me more than once. No one was taking it. Not my son's foolishness. Not the criminals he owed. Not the ghosts of my past. Not now. Not ever. At 11:46 a.m., the doorbell chimed. I didn't need to look up to know trouble had arrived. Trouble always changes the rhythm of a room. It slows the air, thickens it, tilts the light. A heavy shadow fell across the counter. Morning, a low voice said. You Gerda? I looked up. Leather jacket, neck tattoo. Hands like slabs of concrete. Razor Merrick. Loan shark. Debt collector. Bad reputation. Worse temper. But he had something useful. A simple mind. Men like him were predictable if you touched the right pressure points. Yes, I said. You must be the man who made my son stupid. He blinked, confused. Not used to mothers insulting him before introductions. Then he grinned. Slowly. I like you already. Sit, I ordered. Not asked. Ordered. He sat. I poured tea. Chamomile. The tea of vulnerable men and smug women. He squinted at the cup. What is this? Tea. I'm not, you're drinking it. He took a sip reluctantly. It's good, he muttered. Yes, I know. I leaned forward. My son tells me he owes you money. Correct. He tells me the amount is 40,000. Correct. No, incorrect. He frowned. You saying your son lied? Yes, I raised him. I know how he lies. Merrick scratched his jaw. He owes me 40. Show me papers. He blinked again. Papers? Yes. Contracts. Written agreements. You have? He shifted uncomfortably. Well, not exactly. We had a verbal, I repeated. In this country, verbal means nothing. He still owes. Yes, but not 40. He stiffened. You trying to negotiate with me? Yes, I said. And you will accept. He laughed loud and sharp, then stopped when he saw my face was not laughing. How much you think he owes? He asked. 20. 20? That's ridiculous. No. You see, if you say 40, you sound greedy. If you say 20, you sound reasonable. Reasonable people don't get IRS attention. IRS? He repeated, suddenly alert. Yes, IRS. You know what happens when IRS looks at your money? He swallowed. What? They take interest. He stared at me. Then exhaled slowly. 20, he said finally. 20 is fine. Good, I said. We have deal. He leaned in. Your son's still gotta pay though. I don't care how. He will, I said. And you will talk to me. Only me. You don't contact Luca again. He raised an eyebrow. Why? Because you scare him. He snorted. That's the point. No, I said calmly. That is lazy. You will not scare my son. You will scare Emmy instead. I can handle it. He cannot. Merrick stared at me for a long second. Then he nodded. Fair enough. He stood, cracked his knuckles, and headed toward the door. At the threshold, he paused. You know, I thought you'd be soft, like most old ladies. I am not most old ladies, he grinned. Yeah, I figured that. The bell chimed behind him. I stood alone in my deli, hands steady, heart steady. But I knew something Merrick didn't. He wasn't my biggest problem. Not by far. The RS and the red-haired accountant 2 days later. 2 men in dark suits walked in. I knew immediately they weren't customers. Government men have a way of holding their shoulders like they're expecting someone to throw a brick at them. Mrs. Gerda Novak? One asked. That depends, I said. You from immigration? No, he said. IRs. Then yes, I am she. They sat without invitation. We have questions regarding your son. Of course you do. He has multiple suspicious transfers in his accounts, large deposits followed by small withdrawals. I raised an eyebrow. You think my son has money? Mrs. Novak, these transfers link to a laundering scheme we've been investigating, and the same transfers appear in accounts belonging to a known criminal accountant. What is her name? Sofia Velikova. The world tilted, just enough to make my pulse skip. Sofia. Her name was a memory I never wanted back. Sofia worked for a man named Victor Kral, the man my husband owed money to before he vanished. The man whose shadow I ran from when I fled Europe. The man who had eyes and ears everywhere. If Sofia was here, then Victor knew about me, about Luca, about the deli. I swallowed the cold spike of dread. The agent continued. She's been using people with no assets but high debt. They make perfect fronts. If they're caught, the organization claims innocence. My son is not criminal, I said quietly. He is idiot. It is different. We're aware, the agent said dryly. That's why we believe he's being used. My hands tightened on the counter. A warmth rose in my chest, sharp, protective, dangerous. Do you know where she is? I asked. Not yet, but if she makes contact, call us. I nodded, but inside my answer was different. I will not call you. I will handle her myself. Because Sofia wasn't the threat. She was the messenger. The real threat was the man behind her, and if Victor was coming for me, I needed to become the woman he remembered, the woman who survived him. The new Luca and the new rules. That evening, I made Luca sit opposite me in the deli after closing. He looked exhausted, ashamed, afraid. Good. Fear meant he was finally awake. You begin working tomorrow, I said. I know. You work every day. Morning to night. Okay. You give me your paychecks. Okay. You delete every gambling app. He hesitated. Mom? I stood. Give me phone. He handed it over. I deleted everything. Every casino app. Every sports betting platform. Every shady site. Every cursed shortcut. When I handed it back, he stared at it like I had removed a limb. Mom, what if I relapse? You won't. How do you know? Because I'll break your fingers. He blinked. That's fair. He leaned on the table, head in his hands. Why am I like this? He whispered. Why can't I be normal? I reached across the table and lifted his chin. You are not broken, I said. You are misdirected. Like bullet that missed target. But bullet can be redirected. His eyes filled with tears. He wiped them angrily. I'll fix this, he said. I swear, Mom, I'll fix everything. I shook my head gently. No, you will not fix everything. But you will fix yourself. And I will fix the rest. The Watcher. At 2 a.m., I looked out the window again. Rain was falling in thin silver lines. Cars hissed past. And there, across the street, a black sedan sat parked. Lights off. Engine off. But someone was inside. Watching. Waiting. Not Merrick's men. Not IRS. Not harmless. I recognized the tactic instantly. Because I had done it myself long ago. This was Sophia. Or someone working for her. So she already knew where I lived. Where Luca worked. Where we slept. I didn't panic. I didn't close the blinds. I didn't hide. I simply turned off the kitchen light and sat in the dark watching the Watcher, because that is how you deal with hunters. You let them think you are the prey, until it is too late for them to run. The message. 3 days later, as I wiped down a table, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, one message, we need to talk. Tonight. Come alone. Another, if you don't come, your son's next. My blood went cold, not with fear, with clarity. Sophia was forcing my hand, but she didn't understand something vital. I was not scared of her, or her threats, or her employer. I'd survived worse than all of them. I'd outlived men who thought themselves invincible. I'd crossed borders with nothing but a child and instinct. And I had not built this life to let someone dismantle it with text messages and intimidation. I put on my coat. Merrick, who had been pretending to read a menu at a nearby table, stood immediately. You going? He asked. Yes, you want me to come? No. She could be dangerous. I met his eyes. So can I. Luca rushed out from the back room, panic in his face. Mom, where are you going? To finish something. No. Mom, please, you can't go alone. I cupped his face in my hands. Luca? I said softly. I survived a country where men like Marek were the polite ones. I survived your father. I survived Victor. I survived poverty. I survived grief. I will survive this too. He trembled. Please, please don't get hurt. I won't. How do you know? I smiled gently. Because I am not the one in danger tonight. I stepped outside. The cool night air wrapped around me. And I walked into the dark toward the place Sophia chose, toward the confrontation she thought she would control, toward the trap she believed she had set without realizing I had set a bigger one around her. The address Sophia texted led me to the Riverfront Industrial District, the kind of place where the city forgets its own people. Old warehouses crouched against the water like tired giants, their windows cracked, their doors rusted. The river smelled of iron and secrets. It wasn't lost on me that this was the same kind of place where, 30 years ago, I had nearly died in another country. Some things never change. I followed the echo of my own footsteps, each one grounding me, reminding me of who I had once been. Not a deli owner, Not a mother washing dishes, not a tired immigrant, but a survivor trained by necessity, sharper than the men who hunted me, quieter than the women who envied me, and more patient than time itself. I turned the corner. Sophia was waiting in the way predators often wait, still, poised, too confident for her own good. She stood under a broken street lamp, the flickering light bouncing off her red hair tied in a tight, severe knot. She wore a black coat, tailored and silent, like a shadow pretending to be human. She smiled when she saw me. "Gerda," she said softly, "thank you for coming." "Thank you for inviting me," I replied. "Good manners are important." She laughed lightly. "You sound calm." "I am calm." "You shouldn't be." "Oh, I should, but I'm not." Her smile faded just a little. "I expected fear." "You expected wrong." Her eyes narrowed. "You don't understand the situation." "No, you don't." She crossed her arms. "You think you can protect your son? You think you can protect your deli? You think you can scare men like Marek or Victor? You're old, Gerda. Your time has passed. It's time to hand things over." I tilted my head. "Hand over what?" "Your life," she said simply. "Your way of doing things. Your business. Your stability. Everything you built. We're going to use it, and you're going to let us. Because if you don't..." She stepped closer. "Your son will take the fall for the laundering." I let the silence breathe. Let her feel confident. Let her feel superior. Let her feel ready. Then I asked the only question that mattered. "Are you done talking?" She blinked. "What?" I stepped forward slowly, deliberately closing the gap between us. "Your speech is long and boring. Say what you want." Her jaw tightened. "Fine. I want access to your deli accounts." "No. I want your kitchen's cash flow." "No. I want your business license." "No." Her voice snapped. "You don't have a choice." I smiled. "Everyone has a choice. Even you. You made many bad ones." She took one step back, small, instinctive, telling. "Why are you smiling?" she asked quietly. "Because..." I said, "You came alone." Her eyes flickered. "How do you know that? People who think they're predators always come alone." Sophia's posture stiffened. "You're bluffing." "No," I said gently. "I'm remembering." She frowned. "Remembering what?" "The last time I stood in a place like this, with a woman like you, who served a man named Victor." Her face went pale. "What do you mean?" "I knew Victor before you did," I said. "Before you were recruited. Before you started laundering. Before you learned to ruin lives for men who don't know your birthday." She swallowed. "You're lying." "No," I said softly. "You are too young to understand his past." "I am not." She trembled. "What do you know about Victor?" "That he doesn't trust women. That he doesn't share power. That he kills anyone who knows too much. That he used to work in a place where blood washed easier than paperwork." Her breath hitched. "How do you know?" I stepped closer. "I was married to one of his men." Her pulse jumped visibly in her throat. You knew." "Yes," I said. "And I ran before he could decide my fate." Sophia's voice cracked. "He didn't tell me. He said you were dead." I offered. "Gone? Forgotten? All three?" She swallowed. "He said you were useless." "Good," I said. "That means he hasn't changed. Useless women don't scare him." She stared at me. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," I whispered, "you have been following a man who would discard you the second you stopped being profitable." Her lips trembled. Her fingers tightened around her coat. "No, he values me. No, he values your skills, not you. You don't know him." "I know men like him," I said. "They all break the same way." She shook her head violently. "You're lying. You're manipulating me." "No," I said. "You're already manipulated. I am freeing you." At that moment, headlights flashed. 2 black cars pulled up. Sophia exhaled shakily. "He's here," she whispered. "Victor, he's here, he's..." But the cars didn't open. They didn't move. They didn't belong to Victor. They belonged to the IRS. And I knew that because the men stepping out were the same agents who had visited my deli. Sophia's eyes widened in horror. You called them? No, I said. They were following you. You led them here yourself. Her breath faltered. You tricked me. No, I said softly. You tricked yourself. You chose Victor's world. You chose his methods. You chose my son as a pawn. You chose wrong. The agents approached. Sofia Velikova, one called. You're under arrest for racketeering, fraud, and laundering. She shook her head desperately. No, wait, listen, Victor. He's coming here, he'll kill all of us. The agent said. Victor Kral is already in custody. Sofia froze. What? He was arrested this afternoon. Silence swallowed the night. I watched the truth break her like glass under a boot. Her voice came out hollow. He didn't come for me? No, I said. He never would have. They cuffed her. She didn't fight. She didn't scream. She simply sagged, as if finally understanding the shape of the world she had chosen. Before they put her in the car, she turned to me. Quiet, broken, small. If he didn't want me, she whispered, why did you come? I looked at her, a woman who had been a weapon, a pawn, a threat, and now a shadow. I answered her honestly. Because you hurt my son, and because no one taught you how to love yourself enough not to serve men like him. Tears filled her eyes. She didn't say another word. The car door closed, and just like that, she was gone. The ghost arrives. I turned to leave. Then a voice rasped, Gerda, not Ayers, not Merrick, not Sophia, Victor. He stepped out from behind the warehouse door, escorted by 2 officers but still walking like a man who believed the ground belonged to him. Older, thinner, more dangerous. His smile was a scar. I always knew you'd come back to me. I stared at him. No, you came back to me. There's a difference. The officers held him steady. He studied my face with an odd tenderness. You survived, he said softly. I always liked that about you. I didn't survive for you, I said. I survived despite you. He tilted his head. You have my respect. I don't want your respect. Then what do you want? Distance. He chuckled. You're still fierce. You're still pathetic. His smile faded. You could have stayed, he murmured. You could have been powerful with me. I already am powerful. He frowned. How? I gestured toward the city behind me, the deli lights glowing faintly in the distance, the river shimmering, the street alive. Because I built something real, I said, and you built nothing but fear. He looked at me one last time. Goodbye, Gerda. Goodbye, Victor. They led him away. I did not watch him go. I had already buried that part of my life long ago. The deli, the sun, the future. When I returned to the deli, it was past midnight. Luca sat behind the counter, clutching a mug of tea like a child holding a candle. Mom! He ran to me, arms tight around my ribs. Oh my God, Mom, are you okay? What happened? Did she try something? Did someone hurt you? I'm fine, I said simply. He pulled back, eyes searching my face. You don't look scared. I'm not. Why? Because it's over. He exhaled shakily. Mom, I swear, I'm going to be better. I'll work. I'll pay off everything. I'll never gamble again. I'll be the son you deserve. I cupped his cheek. No, just be a man who learns. He nodded, tears falling silently. Can I sleep here tonight? He asked. Small, vulnerable, not 27 but 11 again. Yes, I said. You can always come home. He curled on the bench seat like he used to, blanket over his shoulders, breathing slow. I watched him sleep, the boy I carried across an ocean, the boy I nearly lost to greed, the boy I fought the world to protect, and I whispered, You are enough, Luca. Finally enough. Epilogue what I built with my own hands weeks past. The deli thrived again. People came for the food, stayed for the stories, and whispered about the old woman who faced criminals with tea and won. Luca paid Merrick back dollar by dollar, not quickly, not dramatically, patiently. Merrick stopped by sometimes not to threaten, but to talk, to drink coffee, to laugh at how life turns enemies into reluctant allies. The IRS case closed. Sophia disappeared into a federal system built to swallow people like her. And Victor? He would face a court, then a cell, and then finally nothing at all. What remained was what always remained: my deli, my son, my life, my peace. Not given, not inherited, not borrowed, not stolen, earned. Every morning when I turn the sign to open, I breathe in the scent of onions, coffee, bread, and the quiet satisfaction of a woman who built her entire world from scratch. I survived countries, men, criminals, debt, fear, and my own child's mistakes. But I did more than survive. I won. Without guns, without violence, without losing myself. I won with patience, with strategy, with love sharp enough to cut rope, with a spine that refused to bend. And when people ask me how I did it, I tell them, I did what mothers do. I protected what was mine.